This guitar I'm using is the new Fender Road Worn, which is also, both these instruments, or the instrument and the amplifier, are made in Mexico, and which makes it cost effective. You know, a lot of people get the wrong idea. Mexico, good God almighty, what kind of a facility is down there? Does it have like, is it a corrugated shack? Or is there a big hole in the earth in the back where they're spraying noxious chemicals that's going into the water supply? Of course not. The place is a state-of-the-art facility. As a matter of fact, if you went to the Fender plant in Corona, California, and you looked around and they blindfolded you and they took you down to Ensenada and you opened up, you wouldn't tell the difference. They're both like Star Wars type facilities where they're the best of modern manufacturing is working for you, ladies and gentlemen. But because it's in Mexico, you get a little bit of a price advantage, which is important. As I mentioned before, as musicians, we're all thousandaires if we're lucky, if you know what I'm saying. So, anyways, these guitars, as you can see, it's pre-distressed. Some people get it right off the bat. They're like, cool. This looks just like Eric Clapton's guitar on the Slow Hand record. The old Blackie guitar that he played a lot in the 70s and the early 80s. And of course, before in the custom shop, they would do a pre-distressed, or what they called relic guitars. And those were very expensive. Custom shop is a place where they can make your dreams come true at a price. You know what I'm saying? And they made a kind of a team-built version of these guitars called the Relics, which they figured out a way to pre-distress the instruments. It came from back in the day when, you know, Sting and Eric Clapton and whoever would come to the people at Fender and say, hey, I love my old guitar, but, you know, it's kind of getting abused. I don't want to take it out on the road anymore. What can you do? And so the guys from the custom shop figured out a way to recreate all the age marks and worn-in marks, cigarette burns, everything, nicks in the body, all that kind of stuff, to make it actually look like it's one of those old instruments. And so then they decided to make it available in a production line or team-built version in the custom shop, and you had 3 different variations of like a 56 Strat. You could get what's called an NOS, which is new old stock, like you walked into a music store in 1956 and bought the guitar. There was a Closet Classic, which was a version of, like, you bought it in 1956, played it a few times, maybe did a couple gigs, but it stayed under your bed. So it's still in pretty good shape, but it's aged as far as the coloring and so on and so forth. And then you have the Relic version, which is like you bought it back in 1956, and then you treated it like a farm animal ever since. You know what I'm saying? And those guitars were very, very cool. They're still some money, though. You're still spending a couple of grand-ish. What's great about these guitars is that the people from the custom shop went down to Mexico. They hipped, if you will, the craftsmen down there to this relicing process. They took kind of custom Mexican versions of custom shop material as far as the hardware and so on and so forth for the instruments. And they basically made a cost-effective version of what was the relic guitars in the custom shop, but these are called the Road Worn Series. And instead of being a specific year, they have a 50s version of the Strat, and the Strat comes in, the 50s version comes in a black with a rosewood neck, and then a two-tone sunburst, kind of like the Brownie, if you will, the guitar that was on the back of the Derek and the Dominoes record, or the guitar that Ronnie Wood used back in the day. And then there's a 60s version of the Strat, which is an Olympic white with the rosewood neck, I'm sorry. And then there's a two-tone sunburst as well with the rosewood neck. And so those are cool. They have what's called Tex-Mex pickups. The necks are a 7.5-inch radius, so it's like the old radius, but it has the medium jumbo frets. They sound and they play great. They come out from the box ready to rock and roll. And I know a lot of people that didn't get the relicing thing. Let's say you have an old Strat and you were thinking to yourself, I've got the real deal. Why do I want to still spend thousands of dollars to get a beat-up guitar from the custom shop that I'm still spending a lot of money for when I didn't even get the pleasure of beating it up? But now all those people are running to get these because now they don't have to bring out their expensive guitars to the gigs, so they can still get the basic sound, feel, and look of that instrument for less than $1,000, which, again, in these uncertain economic times, ladies and gentlemen. They also make a Telecaster, but the Telecaster is only available in the 50s version. So we have the Telecaster back there in the cream, and there's also one in two-tone sunburst. They make the basses as well. There's a jazz bass and a P bass. Those are really nice. I'm not a bass player, so I can't, but all of my bass playing buddies are like, I gotta have one of those. Those are the greatest things ever. So they're really awesome guitars and timely as well. Especially, you know, Fender made these amplifiers and the guitars at a time when the economy would kind of, you know, make people a little bit more cash conscious. So good guitars and amps for an affordable price, and it's my pleasure to be able to play these things and go out for Fender every now and again and sing their praises. So again, I'm Greg Koch here at Sweetwater. This store is unbelievable. It's like a monster, ready to take over the world and give people a deal they can't understand, let alone refuse. Is that wrong? I don't think so. All right, we'll see you next time. Adios.